Hi, my name is Judge, and we are at the final part, 7 out of 7, of my 135 Murder at Castle Nathria Arena review. We've got 20 cards left. Let's get to it with a Paladin spell, Divine Toll, 7 mana, holy, shoot 5 raise at random minions. They give friendly minions +2/+2 and deal 2 damage to enemy minions. Interesting card. A little bit of AoE plus buffing your own stuff. This is a tough one because if it's hitting enemy minions, you look at this kind of like a 7 mana consecration, which is bad. Buffing your own stuff, it's like, oh, that's like a 7 mana give your board +10/+10. That's great. So I feel like this card is going to be best when it's buffing your own minions, meaning it's best when you're already winning, making it maybe not worth the risk to even pick up in the first place. This reminds me a little bit, you look at the deal 2 damage to enemy minions of Sneed's Masterpiece, but it doesn't get a body. So the fact that there's no body with this, I think makes it not really super great. It's random target, so it's a bit inconsistent if you don't hit exactly what you want. On a completely even mid-range board, though, you get a bit of a swing. If there's a couple 2 health breaking points, you get a bit of a swing, a bit of a buff. Could be fine, but I think at 7 mana, I just need a little bit more than this. I think this card it looks great, but I think it's just going to be a little too circumstantial and a little too expensive. Next, we have another Rogue Secret, getting a bunch of Rogue Secrets this time around. 2 mana, Double Cross Secret. When your opponent spends all their mana, draw 2 cards. So 2 mana, draw 2 is like a swindle, which is great. And I think this card is going to be good, because in Arena, you want to spend all your mana mostly every turn. However, once you get to turn 10, if you haven't already won the game and you top deck this, it might just become pretty useless. Easy to play around in the late game, and it's going to be a terrible draw. So you really got to hope you play this on like turn 6-ish, because if you play it too early, then you're just missing out on tempo. And Rogue wants to be tempoing quick. So I think 2 mana draw 2 is great in theory, but I feel like there's actually not going to be as many great times to play this as people might think. But it should be quite strong as a consistent draw on something like turn 6 or even 7. So I think it's going to be good, but maybe not just quite as great as maybe people think. Next, we have a 1 mana 1/2 neutral, Dredger Staff. 1 mana 1/2. Not super great. Let's see what the effect is. Battlecry, give minions in your hand +1 health. That's a fantastic effect. 1 mana 1/2 should have a good effect if you want to slam it down. You look at like the Elemental discount. You look at Firefly. And if you're playing this card, you're probably playing a tempo deck if you're starting with this on turn 1. And if you're playing a tempo deck, you're playing curve. And if you're hitting a 2, 3, and a 4, say, with this, that's amazing. Best case scenario, that's a really, really strong curve out. I think this is going to be, the more disciplined of a curve tempo player you are, the more you're going to love this card, and it's going to be great. If you like to get a little bit greedier, this is going to lose value very quickly. So I think that tempo players are going to love this card. It's going to be very, very powerful for tempo classes and tempo decks, because that's a very powerful effect. This into a 2 mana 2/4 into a 2 mana 3/5, just standard minions, and all of a sudden you're really getting some good value trades. I think that's a rather strong one. Next, we have a very large totem. This must be the largest totem I've ever seen. 10 mana 8/8, Gigantotem. Costs 1 less for each totem you've summoned this game, and we've seen a lot of cards this expansion that are summoning totems. Very interesting, putting a little more value into some of those. You know, you've got the Chisel, the 2 mana 1/3 weapon. You've got the Party Favor totem, which all of a sudden, you're getting some pretty quick discounts. So really going heavy on the totems here. All of this is fun. All of this is cool. Let's look at this card without that synergy. What if you just hit the button a couple times? Hit the button a couple times, 2 or 3 times. This is not going to be good. You're going to need some synergy with it. Some of the cards are fair, but without the legendary to really make it all amazing, feels like you're going to need just a little more than just basic totems if you want to really be ahead by the time that this totem's coming out. So I'm a big fan. I'm hoping we see other expansions that have totem synergy in when we get to the new expansion, like from prior sets. And then this could be quite decent. But as it stands, just like for consistency, it's probably not something you should shoot for. It's something I'm going to shoot for. but it's probably not something you necessarily should shoot for. Next, we have a Priest Shadow Spell, Identity Theft. Discover a copy of a card from your opponent's hand and deck. That seems pretty good. 3 mana for 2 cards, but you get to discover them, and you get some information about your opponent's deck. That seems really, really strong. Really, really strong. Just much better than Arcane Intellect. Generally in Arena, your opponent's deck is about as good as your deck. And it's not like in Constructed where their cards aren't going to help your deck as much. So this seems like quite good, regardless of who you're playing. And the information, yeah, that's a great set of resources for Priest. Next we get 3 mana 3/4 Invitation Courier. After a card is added to your hand from another class, copy it. You know what that would go very well with is an Identity Theft. 3 mana 3/4 is a completely fine stat line. I talked about this earlier in another video for the review. 3 mana 3/4 with an upside tends to be very good. This is, of course, going to be much better in particular classes like Rogue and like Priest. And in those classes, it could really get out of control. You play it on curve, they don't have an answer, and you can come into like another 3 and a value 1-drop that gets you double. It could be really good. And at its worst, it's strong. It's a 3 mana 3/4, so great. I think this is going to be a very solid card in particular classes and just completely fine pickup in the rest. Next, we have a 6 mana 4/4 Rush, Masked Reveler. Death Rattle, summon a 2/2 copy of another minion in your deck. And that's not going to be very good at all. 6 mana 4/4, summon a 2/2, so 6 mana 4/4 Rush with a 2/2 attached to it, 6/6 total stats, a bit of Rush. That's not good. You're going to need to get a particular 2/2. This is going to be for Constructed, trying to maybe tutor out a particular copy of a minion. You're not going to really be able to do that in Arena, and this card will be bad. Next, we have a 5 mana 5/5. All minions cost 2 more. Muck Plumber, the neutral. And this is a very interesting one, because a 5/5 isn't a great stat line. We've seen a lot of interesting 5 mana 5/5s with good tech. Boom Pistol Bully comes to mind, and that card was pretty good. And I think likewise, this card, similar to Dredger Staff, is going to be one that tempo players love. And value to greedy players, like looking for more late game, it's not going to be good. If you curve out right from 1 and go all the way to this card, that's going to be really tough, because how is your opponent, if they don't have a spell to deal with this, they're going to have to lose a lot of tempo to already a very tempo-orientated deck. And that's going to be hard. So even like playing this on turn 5 as a hunter could just slow them down enough to just continue to go face, win the game. I think it's going to be strong in aggro and tempo classes, and in more value classes, it's going to be weak. But I think it's a pretty strong card. Next, we have Mysterious Visitor, a 2 mana 2/3 for Priest. Epic card, Battlecry, reduce the cost of cards copied from your opponent by 2. So, a theme here, of course, for Priest, stealing your opponent's stuff. That's a new one. You get cards copied from your opponent, you play this, you get your discount, hopefully on a bunch of them, and that's cool. The problem here is it's a 2 mana 2/3. I guess if you have it early, you can just play it as a 2/3. If you have it later, you can maybe try to play it as a value card. But if you're playing it later in the game, do you really need a 2/3 that for 2 mana? Or would you just rather have a different card and just pay the extra 2 mana for your copied spells that you're probably not pouring out on the board at once? I don't really see this effect being all that important. I kind of look at this and just see a 2 mana 2/3 for Priest, to be honest. But, if you have a few copies of Identity Theft, maybe this is something you want to slam down on. Say Identity Theft comes down on turn 7 or 8 because you've tempoed out, or maybe even 6 and you play this the turn after. That could be good. I think it's just a little bit too fringe. Not quite there for a 2 mana 2/3. We'll see, though. I mean, it's completely playable. It's 2 mana 2/3. It's completely playable. I just don't think the effect is going to be that insane. 4 mana 2/5 is next, and this card is a doozy. Partner in Crime, Battlecry, summon a copy of this minion at the end of your turn. This card is insane. It's a 4 mana 4/10 right off the bat. On curve, 4 mana 4/10. That's crazy, right? That's insane. Of course, a little bit awkward with the 2 attack on them, but it's not quite as good as an individual 4/10 maybe. But it's close. It's really, really good. And then you get the idea that you can actually buff this later than turn 4 to make it even better if it's turn 5 or 6, and you play Bless on this, all of a sudden you have two 7/7s, and it's game over. And there's other cards to play. We saw the 3 mana give a minion +2 health and set its attack equal. We've seen other buffs in other sets. So this card is just going to be always nuts, no matter what. This card is just an absolute pile of stats that can get way better, and that's insane. This card is one of the best we've seen. Next, we have a 2-mana spell for Warrior called Riot. It's an epic. Your minions can't be reduced below 1 health this turn. They each attack a random enemy minion. So the idea is you have a fairly equal board, you're able to play this, and you just clear their stuff because your stuff's immune, and you keep a board and they don't. The problem I have with this card is, 1, it costs a card out of your hand that doesn't really develop anything. And 2, 1 health leaving over is not super strong, and you can't pick your targets. So you're not necessarily going to get even that great of trades, even if your stuff is left alive. They still might have stuff left alive. So I don't feel like this is consistent enough to really be that good. Obviously, the absolute high rolls of you're evenly matched and you already have 1 health minions or 2 health minions anyway, and you just get a 2-mana board clear is great, but those are going to be rare. I don't see this card really working out so well. Kind of like Commanding Shout. Right? It's in theory, it's good, and then it kind of just was in Arena. Same kind of idea here, I think. Next, we have a 2-mana 2/3 neutral. It's got Battlecry, give a friendly beast, +2 attack. So, on its own, again, it's a River Croc, it's fine. You play it, it's a 2/3, no problem. In a Hunter or a Druid where you have cheap beasts, this is going to be great. This is going to be insane. Lance Carrier, underrated Arena card, is a strong one. You combine the DID effect onto a fine statted minion, and that's amazing. You got a lot of beasts, this is going to be insane. You don't, it's going to be fine. Maybe you only have a couple beasts, and then a couple games, this actually does something great. Seems like a strong 2, but just, mostly not insane, unless you're a cheap beast, Druid, or Hunter. Next, we've got a 4-mana 2/5 Taunt, Scuttlebutt Ghoul. That's a fun name. Battlecry, if you control a secret, summon a copy of this. Alright. 4-mana 2/5 Taunt is not a good stat line. We have Stegodon, which has been power crept so much. It's okay. So you kind of need a secret to make this work. And the odds of having that consistently are pretty low. So I think this card is not going to be super good. It's not like a 4-mana 2/5 is unplayable, though. So if you have 3 or 4 secrets, maybe it'll be fun to pick up and actually very good. Because a 4-mana 2/5 is playable, but I think the card's probably going to be not statted well enough to be played. Next up, we have Service Bell. 3 mana, discover a class card from your deck and draw all copies of it. Interesting. This is fun for Arena because you can draft more than 2 copies of a card. So you could have 5 of a particular class card, and if you discover that, you can do a whole lot of drawing with this. Now, most decks don't have 5 copies of a thing. Most have 1 or 2, meaning this is probably not going to be very good. I mean, Arcane Intellect, but you got to get a little lucky. I think this is a card you pick in the last half of the draft if you have 2 or 3 copies of a card, or you have a bunch of duplicates where discovering is going to be common to get you 2. But I think earlier than that's just too risky, because 3-mana draw 1 really is terrible. Usually you want to draw 3 with this. So you're going to have to draft it after you've already gotten the awesome synergy, and then you still have to high roll. Don't think that's going to be that good. Noted, it is a class card, and class cards are better than neutrals. So tutoring specific class cards, maybe you have a Leviathan in your deck, and maybe that's worth going for. So mostly not good. Next, we have Sinful Brand, a 1-mana Demon Hunter spell. Brand an enemy minion. Whenever it takes damage, deal 2 damage to the enemy hero. So this is interesting with Demon Hunter in particular because you have a lot of Illidari cards. You have, boards of 6 1/1s with rushes, sometimes 14. Most of the time, though, this is just going to be bad. Cards that don't develop anything and only deal damage to the enemy hero often aren't that strong. Sinister Strike kind of reminds me of. But if you have a few Illidari cards, it could be interesting. It's not uncommon to see a 7 or 8 health minion in the late game. And if you brand one of those and then play something like Expendable Performers or Command the Illidari, that's a lot of damage. So, depending on how common those Illidari rush cards are, Right, 1 mana Fireball, even with just 3 of them, might be looking to pick this up for actually combo potential in the arena. Just on, before you have any synergies with it though, probably not something you want to waste space in your hand with. So, very interesting card, and actually maybe going to be drafted like a weird amount given how much spread Demon Hunter has. Pretty interesting. Next, we have another totem. It's a 1 mana 0/3 totem. At the end of your turn, gain +1 health. So I see the problem with this totem right away with Sinstone Totem, and that's it has no attack. So it's not going to be good. You want to attack with your minions. This is going to combo if we see, what is that called? Totemic Reflection. Totemic Reflection. If you have 2 or 3 copies of that, sick, go for it. If it's in, right? Other than that, it's just not worth it on its own. You need some very specific synergies to pick this up. Normally not going to happen. But when they do happen, it'll be awesome, because that's a decent effect. Next, we have one of the most interesting cards in the set, Steam Cleaner. 5 mana 5/5. Mech, Battlecry, destroy all cards in both players' decks that didn't start there. What a tech piece. We've been plagued by Fires of Zinashari, by Lady Prestor, by Kazaku-san, even in Arena, a whole lot. And this tech piece obliterates them. Now, is the potential to get hurt by one of those cards worth running this as tech? No. No, it isn't. So, this is going to be very, very cool to see played in the arena when it actually is played. It's going to come from discovering a mech in the right game, or it's going to come from you have a bad set of 3 cards in your draft, and Steam Cleaner is the best choice. Very, very interesting. Jade Golem Killer? Lots of interesting stuff that you wouldn't even think of that goes into your deck and into your opponent's decks, like bombs and like spiders that get drawn. So I don't think it's consistent enough to just really want a 5 mana 5/5, but the possibilities are endless with this. Very, very cool. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's enough of them that it's actually worth picking up the tech. Next up, we have another 5 mana 5/5. Seeing a lot of interesting 5 mana 5/5s this expansion. Stoneborn Accuser. Infuse 5, gain Battlecry, deal 5 damage. So this is a very simple one. If you infuse 5, it's amazing. If you don't, it sucks. Simple as that. So what deck are you putting it in? Maybe some sort of hunter with a lot of rats and a lot of early game. Maybe the old rats and bats hunter. And then it's going to be good. Druid, token druid, maybe you can find a way, but you got to draw it at the right time. I think this is mostly just going to be a 5 mana 5/5 at infuse 5. Depends on the deck. I think you need to get pretty wide for this to work. I don't think it's going to quite be there. Second to last here, we've got a 10 mana 8/8 common with Rush. Death Rattle, summon an 8/8 Gravewing with Rush. So 2 8/8s with Rush packed into one. That's a heck of a lot of removal. Immediately, this reminds me of a much worse Raid Boss Onyxia, which if you're even comparing it to Raid Boss, it's probably good. You look at this, compare it to Dig Day, and oh my god, is this ever better than Dig Day? You get double the Rush into it. You know, like 8/8, 10 mana, but still, you get double. And also, Coilfang Warlord, which I think this is a worse version of Coilfang Warlord, given as it's only 8 mana. That being said, this is some strong removal and a lot of stats packed into there, and I think that's just going to be a nice, solid 10 cost. Interestingly, we've seen some Death Rattle synergy. Perhaps the Druid, gain a Death Rattle in your deck, you can gain this Death Rattle. Maybe you've got the Hedge Maze, and you're waiting for that big, you've ramped, and you're waiting for that big 10 drop. You know, we see that finisher for Druid. I think that it doesn't really need the synergy, though, and it's just completely a solid card on its own. I think there's going to be one we see a lot of. It's a common card. It's not more busted than a lot of cards we've seen in the last few sets, so I think we're going to be prepared to see a lot of this one. Very, very strong. And last card we have of the entire set, the last to be released, is Suffocating Shadows, a 3 mana shadow spell that reads, when you play or discard this, destroy a random enemy minion. Of course, it's a deadly shot with an upside. If you discard it, you get its effect. Cool. How many discard effects are there going to be? Spawn, if that's in, great. Nothing you get to choose. There might be some stuff where you discard your lowest cost card, where that could come in really clutch with this card. Cool synergies to be had there. But it's completely fine removal on its own. Completely fine removal on its own. Strong card with very high potential with synergies. And with that, we have gone through all 135 new Nathria cards. A lot of really, really strong ones there. A couple of the pack fillers, a little bit of 2/3s and 3/4s that are fine, but a lot of really, really high power in the set, as usual for the last few. Really, for me, MVPs are those wild seeds. Got a couple strong neutrals that are going to need to be teched around. Very excited to give this a try on April 2nd. Hey, thank you very much. If you watched all 7 videos and got my opinion on every single card, you're for sure going to be completely set heading in on Tuesday into the arena. No question in my mind. Looking forward to trying it myself. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget, if you enjoyed this series, to hit that thumbs up button. Slam that subscribe button. Helps me out a great deal. And I will see you in the next video. Take care.